Hey folks, it's Sam, and I'm going live here today to talk about it's August 29th at about 1:55 p.m. in San Diego, California, and I'm going live here today to talk about the Jupiter and Saturn stationary direct. Um, they're about to um, go direct. They're now what's called stationary direct, which means they're sort of stopped in the sky. They're technically still going retrograde, but they're about to go direct within a month. And when this happens and planets are on the verge of changing directions, they basically stop in the sky. And we're going to be looking at the current sky chart right now and seeing how the planets how they look when they station this way, and the implications of that, of course, and what we see when they do stop like this. What it feels, how it feels is that we're stuck, or we're like energy starts to build and build, and there's a sort of stubbornness to it, you would say, where our sort of however we feel at a given time starts to sort of coalesce and concentrate, and again we feel kind of stuck in that in those beliefs or those commitments or other things. And that's sort of where we're at with these two planets of Saturn and Jupiter. And so I'm looking at something here, and yeah, okay, I have this up here as well. One of the things I also wanted to talk about here at the beginning is, as you can see, there's a banner at the bottom, and it gives you an opportunity to get some discounted courses. I've had these up for quite a while, and I just put the link in the chat, called Vedic Astrology Essentials, where you can get 10 hours of astrology courses, and they're at a deeply discounted price. It's a bundle of astrology classes that I put together a few years ago, and it's actually 3 classes. One is Yoga, Ayurveda, and Vedic Astrology, 6 hours, where you learn all about the crucial frameworks of how Vedic astrology works and its connections to yoga and Ayurveda. Again, 6 hours of that. And then you also get a course on quantum Vedic astrology and neuroscience. Now, this shows how Vedic astrology is connected to the brain, the brain's wiring. For example, the triune brain of the reptile, monkey, and human brain. These connections to the 3 gunas and our karma. Very interesting way to connect Vedic astrology with Western sciences of neuroscience, the brain science, and also quantum physics, which is understanding life on the quantum level, how our brain then creates the world that we see. Very interesting course there. And then also a spiritual astrology course where I talk about the nakshatra deities and how to focus on your inner spiritual life. And again, these courses, 3 full courses, about 10 hours, they're normally about $97, but you get them only $9.47. Again, if you click, it just takes you right to the checkout page. Again, only $9.47. A great way to get started with Vedic astrology. That's why I put this together, because I know there are a lot of people who watch my videos, especially on YouTube or in other formats, and they wonder, how can I learn more? People always ask me this, is there any way that I can just kind of learn more? Well, I put this together. If you don't know anything about it, all 3 of these classes are for all levels, and they take you very deeply into the crucial and important frameworks that you need to know. Again, the timeline of life on Earth. This is in the first class. These are actual screenshots. The sacred astronomy, for example, the number 108 in the sacred astronomy, how spirit takes form, in video 3, after we take this cosmic timeline of life on Earth and then the sun, moon, and earth relationship, then we get into how spirit takes form through the 3 gunas, body, mind, spirit, and then the divine planets. And I go through each planet. Again, it's very transformative, so you can get a larger context of astrology. Then in the quantum Vedic astrology class, you can see this is right from the course material, where I'm talking about the triune brain, the 3 brains, the reptile brain, which is Saturn and Mars, fear and control, which are Saturn, Mars, anger and discipline, to the mammal brain, Venus and Mercury, happiness, details, the human brain, sun, moon, and Jupiter, the power of self, power of love, power of meaning. Again, so really connecting astrology with our Western cognitive sciences and physical sciences, very powerful, so that you can land these astrological concepts into something tangible. And then the third course, the spiritual Vedic astrology, this is more esoteric, but it really gives you an outline of how to understand, especially the nakshatras, their deities, and more. So you get an overview of that. And again, these 3 integral astrology courses, only $9.47. It's about 10 hours. I know it's crazy, but you actually get close to 10 hours, only $9.47. So again, check it out. At that web address, I'll put it there again, Vedic Astrology Essentials, and check it out. So I'm going to now show and share one of my screens here, and I'm going to actually start with this astronomy app, so you can see kind of where we're at right now. It's a little tricky, but you can see how this let me see, what do we have here? Where are they? Pull this in a little bit. Let me see. Astronomy. Oops, sorry. It's temperamental at times. Come on. One second. Okay, there you go. That's what's going on, is that the outer system, let me look at the planets, large, realistic, large, new settings, system settings. I'm trying to get it so that they're not so spread out. All right. Anyway, you can see that this is the Earth right here. The Earth is right here. Okay. And you can see that Jupiter and Saturn are here. Now, when the Earth was here, this is when they were the most retrograde. See, Earth and Saturn are here. This is when they were the most retrograde. This was in the middle. This was July 19th. This is when both of them were like at the deepest retrograde, because when planets are retrograde, they're closer to the Earth, right? So that means the Sun is here, Earth is here, and Jupiter and Saturn are here. This was July 19th. Again, if we go back here, this is when Jupiter was probably the most retrograde, because you can see, okay, there's a good view. So Jupiter at its deepest retrograde here. Saturn at its deepest retrograde, but now it's starting to shift and they're stationary direct. You're looking at the date is right here. So now we're like August 29th. You see how now they're starting to move further away from the Earth. And then Jupiter goes direct actually on September the 12th. At this point, Jupiter will start to move forward again relative to where we are on Earth, and then Saturn later. Like I think it's September 30th or something. So right now we're here in our orbit. It's September 29th, right? And so Jupiter and Saturn are essentially stuck from our vantage point at this place in the sky. And again, if you could, let me change the obliquity here, the angle a little bit. If you turn it, if you turn it this way, they're just kind of stuck there for a while in the sky from our vantage point. And you can see how that works. They've been kind of stuck at that point for a while, but you can see if you just draw a line right through here to both of these planets, they're kind of hanging out at that exact same degree for a while. So this is what the station looks like. They're just kind of stopped in that point in space behind them for quite a while. So I wanted to show you that that view of it, because it really helps to land the it really helps to land that concept. Actually, let me change this. Yeah, so it really helps to land that concept quite well of how the planets are stuck in that position, right, for quite a while. They're in that same degree. And so I wanted to show you that, because now when we go into the actual chart that you're used to looking at, you can see why the planets are hanging out at this point. It's at this point. You'll see here, if this is this is August 29th. I'll go back a couple weeks. You'll see Saturn is at 155, Jupiter is at 2335. You watch these degrees. This is August 29th. Okay, if I go back even a couple weeks, Saturn was at 240. It's still about the same degree. Jupiter, 2430. It's like within 1 degree. So you'll see that Saturn and Jupiter stay at like 24 of Jupiter. I'm sorry, 24 of Sagittarius for Jupiter, and Saturn at about 1 or 2 degrees for months. This is already October 10th. Look, Saturn is still 1 degree. Jupiter is now 25, so he started to move a little bit. But again, that's months to be within the same 1 or 2 degrees. Saturn stays at about 1 to 2 degrees until November, almost. See, so Saturn is now 2 degrees. So look, just take a look at Saturn. On November 7th, Saturn is at 2 degrees of Capricorn. But if we go back, Saturn was at 2 degrees of Capricorn in August. So he's hanging out within that same 1 to 2 degrees from August until November. That's like 4 months. Jupiter is about the same. Again, 2430. And then we get to November, he's like 26. He starts to move a little bit. But even in the middle of November, he's 2508, 2556. So this is the phenomena that I'm talking about. And it's really important that we understand, what goes on with these stationary planets. When they station like that, they become really, again, very focused, very almost kind of stubborn. They're like stuck. They're like gunk. It almost kind of freezes them a little bit. And they're kind of frozen in time a little bit. And again, the energy starts to sort of concentrate and build up, because what's happening is that they're changing direction. And like we saw in the solar system application, it's like it goes like this. Try to keep this parallel. So it's here, and then it goes like this really slow. Like if you look at this degree, it's here, then it goes like this really slow, and it kind of stops completely for a while. Then it goes here again, really slow. And all of this is like 2 months, 2, 3, 4 months to just do this. So again, when you look in the sky, like if you were to, visually look in the sky, which is astrology also, is a visual medium. Like you could be you're looking at the sky to check where something is. This motion is virtually indistinguishable against the backdrop of stars. It's like not moving. And again, normally they don't move that fast, but Jupiter, it'll normally, over 2 months, Jupiter would normally, do something like this when he's moving direct. It would go like that, right? Saturn would be maybe like this, a little slower, like that over the course of 2 months. But to have it just go really, really slow, and then back over it again, and then back over it again. It goes over it like 3 times. So, of course, if you have any planets there at very early Capricorn, in those very early degrees of Capricorn, Saturn is just hovering right there, and he has been for months. But again, we could extend the time frame a little bit. If we extend the time frame a little bit to 5 or 6 degrees, again, that's when he really started to slow down. To 5 or 6 degrees, he starts to slow down and stop and then go forward again. He's not going to cover that. He'll be in 5 to 6 degrees for about a year. And Saturn winds up doing this. That's what his direct motion winds up doing. His retrograde and direct motion shows that he covers specific areas of the chart for like years at a time. And so this is how you really drill down into Saturn and Jupiter as well. It's not as long, but it's the same, and it's not always the same degrees. So this is what we're in right now, and it's like 1 to 2 degrees of Capricorn, and 23 to 25 degrees of Sagittarius. Now, again, if you have planets there, it's really working those over exactly. But of course, any planets in those signs are important in that sense. And, conceptually, and as we look into the world and sort of collectively, which is what I do a lot in these forecasts, because we're all experiencing a sort of collective reality, we're seeing this kind of, energy getting sort of stuck, en masse, where we're kind of, our beliefs are starting to really sort of concentrate. And we're starting to kind of get, our beliefs are kind of starting to coalesce around what inspires us or what we think is the big point. Here's the big point, because Jupiter, again, stationary, he's retrograde now. It's about to go stationary direct. Means we're going to start moving forward and acting upon those inspirations here real soon after September the 12th. September the 12th, Jupiter goes direct. So let me go back to the chart here and just show. So this is September 12th here. On the next day, the 13th, Jupiter is direct. So 12th or the 13th, Jupiter actually stops moving backwards. You can see 23:15. So he stops there for a couple days. So you see it's 23:16 on the 11th, 23:15 on the 12th, and then it's also 23:15 again on the 13th, and then 23:16 again. 16. This is indistinguishable. This just means it's no longer going back. But to say, oh, it's no longer retrograde now, it's moving forward, we also have to realize that with every change of direction, it's actually a station. It's really kind of stuck. It's just no longer going backwards in that micro integer of, space. So again, this is September 14th, and then 15th, 16th. Then he starts moving forward again, but it's only by 23:20, 23:21, 23:23. Again, this is indistinguishable, really. He's just kind of stopped there. Saturn, again, he keeps moving backwards. You see Saturn is stationary there on September 23rd, 113, 112 on the 24th, 112 on the 25th, 112 on the 26th, 111, 111, and then he suddenly stops, and it stops at 111, but it was at 111 for 3 days. Still 111, and then 112. So again, you can see how they just stop. So again, this Jupiter in Sagittarius is very powerful and fierce and inspired and motivated to pursue what we believe in. Now, those of you who follow my work for a long time know that I'm always neutral about these things. Okay? And I'm neutral in that I don't say, look, Jupiter is a benefic, and the way that it's a benefic is it gives us hope. And hope is a great blessing in our life, because without hope in this world, we wind up, killing ourselves or something. Hope is what keeps us going in times of stress. We have some belief, something to believe in. Something to believe in is a very neutral thing. We might believe something that's ultimately not so great. Think of all the things you've believed. At the time you believed them, they gave you hope. Does that mean you still believe that? No. You would look back on that and go, ugh, I can't believe I used to believe that. Right? So our beliefs are neutral. They can take us closer to the truth or not in an ultimate sense. But in the moment, beliefs are very auspicious because they give us hope and meaning and purpose is a blessing in the moment. In contrast to not having any sort of belief or any sort of hope. Because if we have no belief or no hope and we're just despondent all the time, again, that's a catastrophe because we might kill ourselves. We might, do anything without hope. But again, we have to examine this because, and I'm just going to flat out say it, I think a lot of astrologers, this is where a lot of astrologers, Western, Vedic, whatever, this is where they get into why they start making big mistakes, especially as they start cheerleading for some planets and denigrating others. With Jupiter, it's good to have something to believe in, but it doesn't always mean that our beliefs are ultimately hopeful or good. For example, and I use the example of things like white supremacy is a belief, right? That, that whites are the superior race. This is a belief that gives people hope, and their whole life purpose revolves around something like that, right? Fanatical beliefs, like, like if you're not part of the caliphate, you should be killed and beheaded. There's a lot of Jupiter wrapped up in all that. Now, again, it could be Jupiter with, for instance, Ketu or Rahu or all kinds of other things. And it's not just Jupiter. But what I'm saying is that beliefs aren't necessarily, oh, it's good, it's good, it's good. Many times beliefs can really derail us. We can have the wrong belief, even though in the moment it gives us hope. It's not necessarily something that is leading to where we actually want to go. Again, every political, social, religious, and movement that was wrong, that resulted in mass casualties and all that, had a Jupiterian belief behind it. Especially politicians and systems, all systems are engineered. The engine of these systems is some kind of belief, something for you to believe in, some kind of hope and inspiration underneath it all. Whether it's Republican or Democrat, they're giving you a belief, a vision, something to believe in. That's what they're saying. Believe in us. We have the belief that aligns with your belief. So again, you might say that your beliefs are good, then the other people's beliefs are bad. All right, so this is the thing that we're looking at. And what I'm talking about is that we're getting much more calcified around our beliefs right now. When Jupiter stations like this, we can expect those kinds of things, and we can notice it. You can notice how in the last month or so, as Jupiter started to station slower and slower, the last month or so, maybe notice how people's beliefs have become more calcified. People are getting more entrenched. And because it's in Sagittarius, they believe them even more. I'm more inspired by it. Again, it's just an inspiration. Jupiter in Sagittarius, it doesn't mean that the beliefs are even necessarily better. It just means that that we feel the purity of them a lot more. Like, yes, I really believe this now. I get it. It's taken me a long time to get it, but now I get it. We should kill all the black people, or whatever it might be. And again, I'm being extreme for effect. But even the worst belief you could imagine possible could be extremely lit up now. And again, there's a temptation to disagree with the way I'm saying this, and I respect that, but I also don't agree. For example, there's a temptation to say, but no, Jupiter in Sagittarius is going to be good beliefs. Good beliefs. Okay, look around you right now. Do you think everybody has good beliefs? Just look. Instead of debating me conceptually, because this is the kind of thing that people will do. People will come on my videos or whatever when I say these things and go, oh, you're wrong. Jupiter in Sagittarius means they're good beliefs, elevated beliefs. Okay, look around you. Are all the beliefs elevated? Is everyone's belief elevated towards some higher thing that's going to benefit us all? No. In fact, they get more narrow. They can become more fanatical. And the only thing we can know really about the Jupiter in Sagittarius is that we're motivated right now to really follow our beliefs and really believe it and be really inspired and motivated by it. On one hand, again, but that's not the only thing happening. That's one thing. The things I'm talking about now are Jupiter and Saturn, because both of them are doing this now. And in some ways, they're sort of anathema to each other, because Jupiter is like, I'm really inspired. or I really believe that what I'm seeing is right, and that what other people who don't have these beliefs, they're just not getting it. Because this is really the thing. If you all could just believe what I believe. What's wrong with you people who don't believe this thing that I feel so clear right now, right? But then we have Saturn, which literally comes after Jupiter. And Saturn is saying, well, but aside from beliefs, beliefs have to be put into practice. We need to apply them, particularly Saturn in Capricorn, which is like beliefs are just abstract, just something going on. How much are you putting your beliefs into practice? What are you doing? What's the practice? What's the karma? What are the actions behind these beliefs? And what is it? What are the implications of your beliefs? Okay, you believe this thing, so look at how your beliefs show up. Look at the result of your beliefs and how it impacts our world and our money and what people wind up doing as a result of these beliefs. So Saturn coming after Jupiter, again, this is an extremely important part of the zodiac as well, where Sagittarius becomes Capricorn. And I talk about this all the time, and I talk about this continuum of the zodiac all the time. One second. And by the way, I talk about these things as well in those courses that I mentioned earlier. I'll put the link here again. And you see the thing on the screen. But this transition from Sagittarius to Capricorn is literally where we take those beliefs and we put them into practice. Because it's one thing to be fired up about our beliefs, which is Sagittarius. But then do we apply them? Do we put them into practice? Which is Capricorn. Capricorn comes after Sagittarius to, like, in many ways, shatter that, sattvic high that we get from being so fired up about what we believe. And I say sattvic high because, sattva is one of the gunas. We have three gunas: tamas, which is through the physical, where we have to manage our fears and stresses and worries, and also where we have to integrate things physically, and it has to do with self-protection, survival, those kinds of things. And then rajas, which is about enjoyment and fun. Again, we don't have any fun if we're worrying about survival, right? It's very hard to have fun when we're worried about surviving. The first guna is tamas, we want to survive. Then once we're not worried we're going to survive, or we might get killed, then we can have some fun with some people. Some fun with this or fun with that. If we see some food, even if it looks like it might be tasty, if we think it might have poison in it, we're not going to eat it. Even just the idea. It's a nice big bowl of ice cream. Oh, that looks great. But if someone says, well, wait a minute, there's some, we put some arsenic in it, all of a sudden you don't want to eat it anymore because you're afraid it'll kill you. So that's the Rajasic guna, is the enjoyment. And then the Sattva guna is something higher than enjoyment. It's about transcendence and belief and those higher principles. By the way, that's a big part of that course that I teach on the quantum Vedic astrology course, again, that you can get as part of that bundle. When I talk about the three brains and the planets, that's what I'm talking about. I'm talking about the reptile brain, which is tamasic, wanting to survive, the rajasic brain, which is the mammal brain, like mammals want to be nurtured and comforted. All mammals. Reptiles don't have that desire to be nurtured and comforted so much. Mammals do, like cats and dogs and monkeys. They groom each other, they touch, but they don't have that conceptual brain of belief and what's the point of it all. That's the human brain, and it's related to sattva, the sattva guna. So in Sagittarius, especially Jupiter in Sagittarius, it's this sattva high. We're high on our beliefs, and they make us feel so good, but it's still one of the gunas, which means it's still attachment. We get a lot of attachment to the beliefs that we have. It's the last attachment. We have attachment to our fears and our pleasure, but we also have attachment to the things we think are going to liberate us. And Saturn comes after that. I should say Capricorn comes after Sagittarius, because Capricorn is Tamasic, which says, well, great, you have all these beliefs. What are you doing about it? Are you putting them into practice? Are you willing to sit with all your discomfort and test your beliefs in silence and stillness and solitude and introspection? And all those beliefs, okay, you still have all these beliefs, but guess what? You're still going to die. Your body's going to die. You're still not in control of anything. You just have a belief about it. So Saturn and the sign of Capricorn brings us into this realm of control, especially the tangible control, the control of our outer environment, like our money, our health, our family, all of those things, external things of the world that we know are going to perish. We know we're going to die. We know everybody in our life will eventually die. Everything we have will eventually change, and we have some control over it, but ultimately we don't, and we can't stop it. We can't prevent it. Now, you might be thinking, God, I thought this was going to be a fun update. Look, if me saying that upsets you so much, then you got a problem. Then you need to face this stuff, because it's real. And whether we face it consciously or subconsciously, it's there. It's there pressuring everything you do. It's that fear that's underneath everything. And in many ways, our beliefs are a hedge against our fear. So we have these beliefs in Sagittarius, and then they bang into the rocky shore of reality in Capricorn. Bam. So again, if you think you're spiritual, what happens when you think people are going to take your money away? Are you still spiritual, or are now you just trying to survive and forgetting all your teachings? So again, both of these things are really powerful now, because again, not only this is just a Sagittarius Capricorn transition. Any planets that move from Sagittarius to Capricorn are going through that transition. But now we have the rulers of both of those planets there, and they're making it really this sort of visceral experience now. And again, with the planets stationed, we're kind of stuck in it. The energy is just kind of like building up. It's just kind of stuck there, where we're really stuck in our beliefs, and we're really stuck in what does it mean? What are the implications of believing all this? And the pressure of that, and questioning that. For example, I'll use a political example, and I'll sort of hit both. Politics, let's say, like left and right politics. They're kind of universal. The politics of the right would be, I really believe, I'm just going to use standard patriotic, whatever. I really believe in, let's say, I really believe in America and its past and its tradition. And yes, there were some things that were wrong, but we can't just go, I'm going to talk about hot button issues here because I can't avoid it. We can't just go dismantling all these statues, because then what does it mean? What does it mean with these beliefs that I have that we, in like patriotism and these sort of conservative things? You can't just go taking down statues, because then where does it go? And yes, I believe in people's rights, all in the race, all races to have their rights. And yes, I know there was slavery and all, but what does it mean now if we start doing this? Does that mean that we have to pay reparations? Again, does it mean that we have to, what about the statues of George Washington or whatever, blah, blah, blah. Okay, so that would be like the right. And both of them are really strong, where the beliefs are really strong and the implications are really strong on both sides. If you go to the left, it would be, I really believe in progress, like let's say a progressive, the ultra left progressive. I believe in progress, and we need to just face and address all the mistakes of the past and progress beyond them and push beyond all of this. Let's say stuff that we're doing now, we need to protest, even if it disrupts and blows things up a little bit, which again is anti-conservative, because conservative means to conserve what had happened, right? More traditional conservative. The left progresses like, we need progress, we need to blow up all that stuff from the past. But then what are the implications of that? defund the police? Do we really want to defund the police, have no protection? Is that really right? Or is it really fair? I mean, where does it stop? Maybe we take down Confederate statues, but what about these other ones? Where do we stop? And how far do we go? Is it really fair, again, to pay reparations? Yes, we want reparations. But what does that do to everybody else? How does that make everything else feel? What do we have to conserve? We have to conserve something. We have to, again, so, and it goes back and forth now. We're questioning all of these things. And I'm talking about them in this way because we're seeing this, and it's not just in America. It's, there's a lot of unrest in India, in Europe. Again, we have other issues and values where we can run these same kind of exercises around politics, or Republican, blah, 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 Democrat, blah, this, that. So both are really strong, and they're stuck for a couple months. Hooray, right? Jupiter in Sagittarius, really fired up about our beliefs, really believing them. Saturn in Capricorn is also really questioning. We should be questioning ourselves, but a lot of what we're also doing is saying, and this is where it gets tough, we're really believing what we think is right, and then taking the Saturn in Capricorn and saying, because what you're doing is completely wrong. I'm completely right. And if we apply what I want, it'll be completely great. And if we apply what you're doing, it's completely wrong. So beliefs and the consequences of our beliefs are huge right now. I think thoughtful people on both sides are doing what I said at the beginning. And they're looking at the implications of their own beliefs and trying to moderate. And there's a lot of capacity to do that because the rulers are there, because it's Jupiter in Sagittarius and Saturn in Capricorn. And the benefit of the Saturn in Capricorn is to get real about these things. That's always the benefit of the tamasic energy, is to ponder the implications on that sort of bare bones level. What is the implications of this? Like, for example, with the leftists, what are the implications of blowing everything up? We still have to live. We have to eat. We need to be safe. We need to have a monetary system. But again, yes, the monetary system is an absolute shambles. Some of us look beyond the right and left and look to the system itself and really believe and understand now more than ever. The biggest problem is money in politics, international money, international corruption, both systems, both parties. All of this duality is just how the oligarchy divides us up and wants us arguing and fighting about social causes, because what's happening is that the powers that be are just taking all the money out, trickling in the least amount to keep us all fighting amongst ourselves. And we need a new monetary system. We need a new approach to the entire strategy. Frankly, especially in America, where more than 7 out of 10, I think 5 to 7 of our tax dollars, 5 to 7 out of 10 goes to the military industrial complex, all this kind of stuff. To me, that's always been the problem, not the social issues. And again, I'm convinced more than ever. But what are the result of that, of completely destroying the monetary system? Now what? Nobody has any money? Like, how do we transition? And again, with these two extremes between the Sagittarius belief and the Saturn, like, destruction, and saying, okay, I'm going to just destroy it and crush it, because Saturn will come and just the weight of time crushing something. And by the way, this is a lot of what this COVID has brought, because if we run this back, again, Saturn, if we run this back months, watch the degrees of Saturn here. This started, this started right at the end of, Saturn went into Capricorn at the end of January. So Saturn hit these early degrees right when COVID started. So Saturn is still scraping through COVID. Okay, this was January 1st. I'm sorry, January 5th. So by February 4th, Saturn is 1 degree of Capricorn. We're still Saturn is still going over this area that he went when COVID started, and he's going to be hanging out there until November. This whole year, Saturn has been going in this same area. And again, what happened as soon as Saturn went into Capricorn? When you look at it, within a time frame that's longer than just, oh yeah, I remember 100 years ago when it was February and we started hearing about COVID. It wasn't that long ago. And especially astrologically, it's the same cycle. It's Saturn going into Capricorn and grinding over these early degrees of Capricorn. Look, February 4th, Saturn was 1 degree. In fact, if we go back a couple weeks, yeah. So you see, if we go back a week, he was 032, and then by the next week, he had moved 1 degree. So again, you can see he on February 4th, he's 1 degree. Again, I'll just run this forward all these weeks. Watch, he goes up 330, 417. These are by weeks: 450, 530, 603, 630, 655, 715, 731, 741, 47. Now he goes retrograde. Now we're here. Now he's at 2 degrees. Again, this is where we're at right now. And I say he's going to go back to that point and just kind of stop and start moving forward again. But look, all of this is into November. All of this is within this transit of Saturn going into Capricorn and pressuring our money, our values, our commitments, our collective relationship. Because again, this is what Saturn is. Saturn is about, what are we committed to? What are we concentrating on? And especially in Capricorn, it's about resources and a tangible expression of those things. Again, for example, we could talk about all these beliefs. Let's say about a country. Let's just use America as an example. We believe America is this land of the free, home of the brave, inspiring flags, patriotism. Okay. Saturn had just gone through Sagittarius for about 3 years. By the way, Saturn went into Sagittarius the day Donald Trump was inaugurated. It was like that day. Saturn went into Sagittarius that day. And that's using Lahiri Nuptia. And then Saturn had been going through Sagittarius the entire time, forward and back. Jupiter went through, all this stuff happened. Okay, so this is the belief, but now he goes into Capricorn. It's like, okay, but how's it being expressed? Especially things like financially. Does everyone have access to the resources to have it be the land of the free, the home of the brave, or just a certain group of people? A certain group of people are really upset now, and it's not the minorities. The minorities have been upset for a long time. They've always been upset. They've been upset since day one. So we see the backdrop of when Saturn goes into Capricorn, and we're seeing the pressure of the financial pressure is a big part of what is underneath, for example, all the social unrest about the Black Lives Matter and this whole thing. It's about, protesting is fine, but what are we doing, financially with this group of people as opposed to that group of people? And again, what are the symbols of all of this stuff? Let's literally tear down the symbols, which would be, symbolic of pulling down statues and all of this stuff. Saturn in Capricorn is saying, it's about tangible stuff, both money and resources, but also the physical world that we have, and what are we doing about those things? So again, and it's not just in America, it's all over the world with what COVID had done, again, aside from politics, collectively as a species. The first thing that we all noticed when Saturn went into Capricorn, and we all had to stay in our rooms for a while, which is what he did, put us all in a big timeout, and we're still in a partial timeout all around the world. Saturn is still doing this thing as he goes into Capricorn and say, okay, everybody stay home. But the first thing we noticed is nature started to rejuvenate itself. We started to learn these lessons, started to see some things that were inspiring and uplifting. So the power so this power is here in many ways right now, and it's pretty concentrated right now. And so that power to hopefully introspect and concentrate is really big now, and it will be for a couple months. Now, in a less mundane sense, because these mundane forecasts, I do them because I want to show the collective energy of the planets. But again, at some point, I'll be honest with me, I get frustrated with people and everybody getting triggered as soon as you mention anything political. Then I get hate. I'm going to keep doing it, but it's irritating, frankly, just frustrating that people can't separate this kind of stuff. But at any rate, what I like talking about more is the real authentic value of these things, and like the spiritual value and the real benefit to those who are interested in the soul's liberation and in transcending all of this. So again, this powerful Jupiter in Sagittarius, in the midst of everything that's been happening, there's enormous hope and enormous benefit from our teachings and capacity to really understand and learn and get the lesson from great teachings and great teachers. And again, it's one of the reasons why I've put together things like this deal that I have. And again, I'm going to talk about it again here for a second. For those of you who are interested in studying, this is a program that I put together a couple of years ago as a great introduction for people that are interested in Vedic astrology. They don't know where to start. Well, again, these 3 classes are great. They start with the building blocks that I talked about of, the 3 gunas, the 5 elements, how karma actually works, the spiritual and scientific basis of astrology, how to evolve those sacred divine qualities in you. And again, you must be able to do this, otherwise you feel like your life is meaningless. If you don't know how to evolve these divine qualities in you, life feels meaningless. How karma actually works and what you can actually change. What is the part of karma? What is karma? First of all, what is it? And how are you functioning and operating within karma, which is one of the most important things you should know. If you're, quote, believing in astrology and you don't really know what karma is or how it really works, and most people don't, frankly. It's just very, very misunderstood. How to transform your anger into discipline. Again, we frustrated and angry, we don't understand discipline. How to elevate your relationships and desires. This is what I'm talking about each planet. So I go through each planet in this first one, yoga and Vedic astrology. You see right here, you see it on the board. Whoops, why is it not doing it? Well, anyway, but on the board behind me here, it has each of the planets. And I have each of the planets through the 3 gunas. It says sun. In the tamasic sense, the sun is like a tyrant. In the rajasic sense, the sun is like a father. And in a sattvic sense, the sun is like the great guru. Again, each of the planets we're on this evolutionary process with each of the planets. And each of the planets, we evolve through the 3 gunas, through body, mind, and spirit. And those planets are those evolutionary forces of consciousness. Evolving is not some circumspect, like, I don't know how we're evolving. It's very precise how we're supposed to evolve and what we're supposed to be doing. That's what astrology is. That's what Sankhya philosophy is. So I go through all of that. That's why the first thing I say in this is how and why astrology works. How is it working? Why is it working? And it's crucial if you're going to take your understanding of life and astrology to the next level, the spiritual and scientific basis of it. Again, we're here, we've incarnated based on karma. We've come down from this non-dual state to a state of duality. And we're evolving specific forces and energies within us. Energy of the sun, the energy of the moon. But how do they evolve? What is the tamasic quality of Venus? What is the rajasic quality? What is the sattvic quality? How does this work? Again, if you don't know, then not only don't you know anything about astrology, but you don't know anything about life, because this is happening whether you know it or not. So this is why people study astrology, because they learn, at least with me, because this is how I teach it and this is how I understand it. Again, then the other class, quantum Vedic astrology and neuroscience, this is really how you can connect those principles and paradigms with Western sciences like neuroscience. One of the foundations of neuroscience is things like the triune brain, how the brain actually works. We also have a thing called the RAS, the reticular activating system, how we project our brain into the world. But again, learning how the brain works on that neurological level, especially the triune brain, which is a great model of understanding fight or flight and pleasure and, higher conceptual awareness, directly maps over to the astrological principles of India. And again, how the principles of yoga have formed your brain, psychology, and habits. And I give some great exercises in how to unwind a lot of confusion, how to evolve beyond your inner chimpanzee and your inner reptile so that you can get out of your own way. I'm sure you don't realize, because most people don't, but what happens is your lower brains and your fears and your stress and your desire for acceptance, which is the mammal brain, are what really holds you back. So you have all these big ideas to do something. That's the sattvic quality of the brain. That's the human brain. I want to do this. I sense this. And then, but you say, but what do my family think if I do that? What do my friends and family think if I want to be an astrologer? What are they going to say? That's total chimpanzee brain thinking. And I don't know, you can't make any money at that. You can't make money, got to survive. That's total reptile brain thinking. So the reason you don't do all that stuff you think you want to do, or those things that inspire you, is because your inner chimpanzee and your inner reptile are just holding you back. What's everybody going to think? And, well, you can't make any money at that. So again, do you want to understand these things? So I explain all of it. It's very clear. And I even give exercises of how you can move beyond a lot of that unconscious programming, because it's very deep, how to get out of your own way. And these are emotional blind spots, and how these emotional blind spots become your karma, which means you act upon those things. And by the way, the deeper the level, the more likely you are to act on it. We are really listening to that inner reptile first. Again, first you want to feel safe. And tamas, the tamasic guna, has to do with your actions, not your big ideas. That's not actions. Those are a bunch of ideas. Think of all the big ideas you have, you never do anything about. The first thing you do something about is something that's going to keep you safe and protected. After you feel safe and protected, then you might try to find some pleasure and happiness. And then if you got safe and protected, have some pleasure and happiness, only then do you dare to dream about a higher future. Again, this is totally the three gunas and the three brains in action. And people will easily ignore their inner human in order to please all the people around you and honor the inner chimpanzee, and of course to stay safe and survive, which is the inner reptile. So people always shortcut their inspirations and aspirations, which is the inner human, to make sure that the inner chimpanzee and the inner reptile are taken care of. So again, these are blind spots. Emotional blind spots become your karma. You act on that stuff. Now, and then how that karma creates your external world on the quantum level. So you then take that brain and you insert it or assert it into reality. On the quantum level, you're creating your reality literally. Quantum physics has proved this now. Your attention creates and collapses the infinite wave possibility into the particle. In other words, it's your attention and intention and action that creates the life you have out of the infinite possibilities. It's not just philosophy. Quantum physics has proved this on the physical level. So you should understand about the double slit experiment, quantum entanglement, spooky action, all of that stuff, which is the principles of quantum physics. So I teach it. How your karma and energy are entangled with every other creature. That's called quantum entanglement. So yes, it's true. Your thoughts and your energies ripple out and affect others. And then the spiritual master course, again, I talk about nakshatras and the deeper connection to deities, each myth and story for the individual nakshatras, a great story arc of creation. So again, all of this is normally like $100. Actually, the value of this was much more. than that. I put these, yeah, this was like a $97 value, this one 47, and this one 47. But again, you could get it only $9.47. And you just click that and get it. So again, it's a great collection of classes. I just thought I would mention that again because people don't understand this. Someone said, are there any good books about gunas? Yes. Get this book. Just get this book. Okay, it teaches all of it. Okay, and by the way, this book was such a good version. You can see on this version, it says The Art of Living. The Art of Living, which is Sri Ravi Shankar's group, they also published this in India because it's such a pure version of astrology. So the great spiritual teacher Ravi Shankar published the book because it so explains these things. So I not only explain the three gunas, I explain them through astrology and Sankhya philosophy. Ananda Element said, great book. Yeah, the book has sold a lot. So anyway, that's the book where the gunas, especially in an astrological context, is explained. Okay. So anyway, folks, Ananda Element said, help me get through my Ayurvedic courses. That's great. I appreciate that. Send me a message, please. Send me a message through my help desk, samjeppy.com/help. I'd like to be in touch. Debbie said, oops, sorry, I'll get you, Debbie. Debbie said, when will you be starting the next certification course? Very soon. Very soon I will be, okay? I have quite a lot going on behind the scenes, but I will be starting it soon. So this, I wanted to talk about that group of courses because it's really a great way for people to start. I bring together a lot of stuff, especially that, well, all of it really, but that first group of classes really explains the connections of Jyotish and astrology to the Sankhya philosophy, especially. You can see there's a breakdown here, and you can see that it's, video 1, the timeline of life on Earth, video 2, the sacred astronomy, video 3, the energy of how spirit takes form. So again, this is like, again, in some ways, this is like pure gold to an authentic student. Again, if you're not an authentic student, you've probably left by now because you're like, oh God, here he goes trying to sell us something, whatever. Get tired of all that. But again, this is really, timeline of life on Earth. Very important to understand the timeline. We've been here 4.5 billion years. We've been here 4.5 billion years. And to understand this sacred architecture is invaluable. Everybody should understand it, whether they do astrology or not. Video 2, sacred astronomy, then the number 108, how these cycles and rhythms form everything in life. The energy of how spirit takes form. Again, you can see Rajas, body and self, tamas, mind and others, sattva, spirit, and the universal. Again, really breaking down the gunas. And everything, our consciousness evolves through that matrix. Then the divine planets. Then I take each planet and explain them through the three gunas. Again, this is invaluable. You can't really understand the spiritual and cosmic metaphysical implications of astrology if you don't know this. And I say that without any fear of contradiction at all. If you don't know this, then you're not really plugging Vedic astrology into the Vedic knowledge. Again, it doesn't mean you can't say things that are correct or whatnot, but it's not plugged into that Vedic knowledge and those Vedic frameworks and those paradigms. There's my friend Tamala. Thank you, Tamala, for coming here. She says Sam's classes are incredible and he's being very generous with this price. Yeah, Tamala has seen this for sure. Thank you, Tamala. I appreciate that. But yeah, these things are really, again, astrology works whether it's Western astrology, Indian astrology, because you're you're learning the message of the cosmos. But if you want to really understand the Vedic part of it, as it connects with yoga and Ayurveda, again, a great compliment and a great thing that who said it? The Ananda Element. The Ananda Element said that that book helped her get through her Ayurveda courses, right? It's not even an Ayurveda book. It's because I explained these principles of Sankhya philosophy. And again, that's the organizing philosophy behind yoga and Ayurveda and astrology. And if you don't know that and you're not plugging into that, you're not doing Vedic astrology. It still works, just like Western astrology works, but it's not that Indian matrix and that cosmic framework. And again, this one also, this neuroscience and this Vedic astrology and neuroscience, people love this because it's so practical about, again, the real beauty of Western sciences. I love Eastern and Western sciences, but the real beauty of Western sciences is they're experiential and experimental. One of the things that we do in the West is we conduct a lot of experiments. We put the thing under the microscope, literally, and look at it. And behavioral sciences and cognitive sciences. And, I've studied all that stuff. And that's the greatness of the Western sciences, is everything is tested and experimented upon. In fact, it's one of the weaknesses of the East, at least it can be, is that unfortunately, a lot of it now has been taken on faith. But in the West, we really conduct experiments. And so this experiential approach, especially to the brain science, the neuroscience, how the brain actually works, we understand these things now. We understand cognitive biases. We understand the triune brain. We understand the reticular activating system. So people that are interested like in psychology and whatnot, and this is a great way to understand astrology and what it's doing on the psychological level, how it forms your brain and your thinking patterns. The chart is a portrait of your psychology in very specific ways. So this course is all about that. And then you take that brain and you project it into the world on the quantum level. Again, I have a few students. One of my best students, Dr. Malini Iyer, who is a doctor, a PhD, studied quantum physics as part of her PhD. And one of the greatest compliments I ever had for any course is she said, "This is amazing because I studied quantum physics as part of my PhD, and I didn't really understand it as well as when you just explained it in this hour. I explained it in an hour, like in one of my classes, breaking down, especially how it's related to Vedic astrology and to how quantum physics, how things are working on the quantum physical level, and how we collapse the infinite possibilities of the moment into the thing that we wind up doing because of our brain." So we go into a situation and there's infinite possibility within that context. And it's our brain that says, no, I'm choosing this thing. So quantum physics explains that. And it's just fascinating. So it's important to even just understand quantum physics. I'd pay $10 to understand quantum physics, to be honest with you. It's just fascinating subject of how reality actually works on the quantum level. You wouldn't believe it. Western scientists still don't understand it. So anyway, but it's that level of specificity. And then again, this is sort of an advanced thing I put in there because I wanted people to see also that Vedic quality of Vedic astrology, that it's not just planet signs, houses, and whatnot, but it's also this whole other dimension of nakshatras and deities and this whole sort of cosmology. I wanted people to also understand that as well. So this is actually lesson 1 in a class that I taught on spiritual astrology. And when you sign up for this special bundle, you'll also have the ability to get access to all 3 of the entire courses for also a discount. But anyway, I didn't plan on talking about this so much, but this is I want people to know that. And the Ananda Element said definitely will be in touch. That's great. I really appreciate that you told me that it helped you with your Ayurveda course, because again, it's one of the things about astrology is that, it's the science that brings all the other ones together in a way that none of the other sciences do. Again, because yoga and Ayurveda are they're doing what they're doing, which is yoga is showing us how to evolve consciousness in this body, where this body is a sacred vehicle to unlock all of the spiritual potential in the chakras through asanas and breath and all of this stuff. We can elevate and increase our level of prana awareness and evolve consciousness to become enlightened in this vehicle. So yoga is really the science where we learn that this vehicle is not just a vehicle for pleasure, it's a vehicle for spirituality and enlightenment. So yoga is how we transform this vehicle into, instead of a fun house, an ashram, so that we don't waste our time and our energy on just enjoying life, and then before we know it, it's gone. So we need yoga to do that. Ayurveda works in concert with yoga so that we are living in accordance with our body's nature, with nature itself, and learning how to modify our imbalances day to day and whatnot. So we pay attention to diet and exercise and the environment, and to live in harmony with nature through the physical, and then to evolve consciousness this way. So yoga and Ayurveda work together as systems of higher consciousness, and also just to live a life of joy and beauty and health and peace. But Jyotish is the one that brings all the other ones together, because it teaches us why all this is happening and how it's actually working, and when certain things are going to shift, and what all this really is. What is the cosmos? What is the universe? What is karma? How is it working? Why is it doing this now and not that? And it brings all of the other ones together, even just with the knowledge, because Jyotish was the one where they studied not just to learn how to live through the body and with nature, but again, why are we here? What's the point of all of it? And who am I as an individual? Okay, I can sit this way and breathe this way and eat, cumin and whatever. But what's the point of it all? Why am I here? And what's underneath all of this? And how is all this working? And again, yoga and Ayurveda also bring in all of that on some level, but Jyotish is the one that's just focused on that. So when you really want to understand why and how it's all working, and literally also when certain things are going to happen, and really why it's happening, all of that, Jyotish is the one. And so it's not surprising that it helps someone with their Jyotish, with their Ayurveda teachings or their yoga, courses, because that's the way I've always experienced it. I started with meditation and yoga in the early 80s and then mid 80s, but there was really nothing, you couldn't really make a living at it then. It was a whole different world, but that was my foundation. So then by the time I started with astrology, all that other stuff was already built into my bones. It's like that never leaves or changes. That's always the context. And so when you learn astrology with that being the context and the structure, or not just Jyotish, but Ayurveda or yoga or anything else, then it becomes, then the house is built with a lot of strength. So anyway, I invite people to check that out. Let me just put the link there one more time. And I see there's some really beautiful things being said. I really appreciate it. People saying some really nice things. Tamar saying, I've been a student of Kabbalah. Sam is teaching pure spiritual truth, wisdom, and technology. Thank you very much. Claire saying, these Vedic astrology help us get through this time on Earth. Thank you very much. I appreciate that. And Laura Hilton said, is it an advanced course? No. This course here is for all levels. It starts at the very beginning. And again, it's like $10. If you get it for $10 and it doesn't work, I'll give you your money back. Again, like with everything. So there's always a money back, if it doesn't work for you. And so anyway, we'll leave it at that. I wasn't planning on getting into this much with the course, but it is good at this time to also explain these things because, again, whether you study, whether you ever go crazy with all this stuff or not, you should be exposed to this. And one of the things that I try to do, my life's work or whatever, is about exposing people to these good teachings. You can do what you want with them, but if I can get this kind of powerful teaching in people's hands for not a lot of money, then I'll do it. Last thing I'll say is you shouldn't take for granted the blessings that you have as being alive at this time, because this kind of thing, we're very spoiled and jaded now. We're used to getting free video everywhere. Everything is just at our disposal now with technology. But look, I started back before any of this was possible. If you would have told me 15 years ago, even, that now I'd be able to put this much value in something this easy, again, pure high quality video and all this just sitting there for people. It used to be that you would have to put these on tapes and mail them to people, and it wouldn't be possible to give this much for $10. It just wouldn't be, because it would cost me too much to do it. Again, the reason I'm saying this so that you don't mistake the value that you have access to. We take everything for granted now. But again, the value of something like this is so immense, and we live in an age that is truly remarkable as far as being able to learn, being able to, evolve and develop. And it wasn't always like this. So anyway, I just want you to understand that as well. Anyway, I'll just leave it at that. And I hope you all have a good day. And again, thanks for all your kind words and your attention today. And I hope this was helpful learning about the stations of the planets. It's going to be going on for a while, and a lot of power now to really tune into that higher spiritual vibration of Jupiter and Sagittarius, really connect with the great teachings, even like what I'm talking about here. Excuse me. And Saturn in Capricorn is great to really commit fully and not just believe in all this stuff, but actually make a commitment and do something with it. Like, for example, actually buying a course and actually being home and studying it and learning and committing and focusing and concentrating on these things and really learning them thoroughly. So again, Saturn and Jupiter here at these places where where they're ruling those signs, Saturn is bringing that inspiration. Jupiter is bringing the inspiration. Saturn is bringing the desire to be committed and to work hard and be thorough and enjoy that. Because you're going to be, with Saturn in Capricorn, it's going to be bringing you into a place of solitude anyway. This is why, again, Saturn went in Capricorn and we all had to go to our room like we're being punished. It's not really punishment. To some of us, it was liberation. It was great. So instead of feeling punished, maybe learn some astrology as well. So, okay. Thanks, folks. You all take